Hello, everybody. It's January 9th, 2025, and this is the weekly Backdrop Dev meeting. It's been an exciting week. We've had a release come out. We passed feature freeze. I guess that was actually 10 days ago, but yeah, we passed feature freeze. We had a new release, and we're looking forward to the release of a next minor version, Backdrop 1.30, next week. So lots of things that are happening in the world of Backdrop. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet. I'm core committer and technical lead for the Backdrop project. I'm joined here by Luke and Martin today, and let them do some quick intros. So, Luke, can you give yourself a quick intro?
I can try. I'm not good at doing things quick, but we'll see. Uh, Luke McCormick here in Martinez, California, near San Francisco. Sell ear on various platforms. I do random things for the backdrop community, particularly around releases. So we're gonna do some documentation and publicity this time around for the 10th anniversary release of 1.30.
Great. Luke? Oh, sorry, Martin?
Hi, I'm Martin Price, Yorkshire Pudding around Backdrop. I'm a Backdrop developer in North East England, um, United Kingdom, and I've been working on a few bug fixes and uh, tidying up a
Oh, sorry.
few of my contrib projects. So yeah, keeping busy.
Great. All right. We usually do a wrap up of new contrib projects that have come out in the past week. There's been 5 new projects in this week. So there's Field Group Multiple, EPSA Crop, Config Deploy, Feeds Profile, and Multi-Field Table. So another great week for Backdrop contrib ports. Some of these are exciting. I'm really curious to see what Config Deploy is capable of doing. Yeah, so exciting to see these new contrib projects come in as always. One other bit of news is we also had the Drupal 7 end of life pass by in the last week. That was January 5th, 2025. The end of life for real. So Drupal 7 is officially no longer supported by the Drupal community. I found it interesting that, there wasn't any immediate action that I saw. Drupal 7 releases are still on Drupal.org. All of the documentation for Drupal 7 is still on Drupal.org. Yeah, it's very much as some community members called it, kind of a non-date, that nothing really happens. All of the Drupal 7 sites are still out there. And yeah, there wasn't any major content removals or anything like that. However, it does make it so that the opportunity for major content removal in the future is definitely there. Drupal.org users may have also noticed that they've switched over some of their site off of Drupal 7, including the homepage and some major top-level marketing pages. But Drupal.org itself is still predominantly Drupal 7, including all project pages, the issue queue, the remnants of the forum, the documentation. All of that is all still on Drupal 7. And they got uh, some support from Tag1, who's providing, ironically, the LTS support for Drupal 7. So Tag1 got a nice placement in Drupal.org's footer in exchange for oddly maintaining the software that Drupal itself runs on that they're not maintaining. I don't know how it came to this. But anyway, yeah, the Drupal 7 end of life is, of course, applicable to us because we are trying to help those Drupal 7 users that are rapidly jumping off the Drupal ship, and we're here to help. So we're continuing to see, I would say, a modest uptick in interest in people moving off Drupal 7, are discovering Backdrop and finding the way they can help them. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing, if we can help more of those people that still have those Drupal 7 sites out there.
One quick point about the Drupal 7 EOL. I'm looking over at the releases page, and it looks to me that like Drupal 7.103 uh, is the most recent and presumably the last ever release from a month ago. I'm sort of surprised they didn't do like one last that there was nothing in the last month to like push out for.
Yeah, um, it is a little bit surprising. I agree, but I mean, this probably has a lot to do with the holiday. That was probably what they considered to be the last opportunity before going into, Christmas and New Year's and all of that. But yes, we solved a bug in the latest release that was a port from Views module that had been open for 14 years. I was sad to see. Actually, it had been open for as long as there'd ever been a stable release of Views for Drupal 7. So it was a bug that it was reported for against RC1 of Views 3. And so that then this bug, they thought that they fixed it, but they hadn't and it was shockingly like in our code base, it was a one-line change plus test coverage, which was like 50 lines. But yeah, we took the patch from that views issue, applied it to Backdrop, and now it's in the 129.3 release as a fix to views' permissions. But a little, it was the first time I'd seen that I had to acknowledge that this fix will never be applied to Drupal ever. Like it's done. And so that complexity there, yeah, and so yeah, it's kind of I don't know, a little sad to see, but also, you know, like this is what Backdrop was made to do, is to make it so that all of this uh work that people have put in for decades doesn't go to waste and is utilized and continues to be a productive part of the internet. We also wrote a little press release about the D7 end of life, and it was really modest. It basically was just acknowledging the fact that it happened. You can see that by checking out the press releases page on backdropcms.org. Backdrop CMS honors the Drupal 7 end of life. So thank you, Graham Leach, I believe, wrote that little press release there. Okay, so yeah, do you have any more commentary, Luke? You look like your brain is churning on this.
I was just curious about a whole bunch of things. Like I know Neil Drum, for example, was maintaining Drupal 5 for years after it was and just kind of curious what that life after death for uh, a software product like that is. Is there there's probably still there must be a named Drupal 7 maintainer, right? I don't know who it is, but
I don't know who it is either. I mean, there's no, I don't know. I don't know actually. Um, there's the d7security.org website that aims to provide continued updates. The concept is that you install this add-on module and it points update module. Instead of pointing at Drupal.org, it points at another XML file that is community supported, not Drupal, but kind of um, a, a little group of renegades that are supporting Drupal 7 unofficially through
what's it called?
d7security.org.
Hmm.
But that also was surprisingly, I checked it out at least a couple days after um, the release, and there wasn't, yeah, it's like the latest news post was October 9th. So they also just kind of quietly let, the D7 end of life go by. So we'll probably see more news in the near future, but yeah, interesting indeed. I don't know how it works, truth be told. It also is confusing to us that we were working on a contrib security release this past week as well, and one of our security team members, Herbduel, asked, "How do we coordinate with Drupal now?" And the honest answer that I had at that moment was, "I don't know." D7security.org, which is where I presumed we would start coordinating with. Right now, their homepage says email security@drupal.org. So that's what we're going to do, and that's what I recommended, is that we continue to do what we've always done and email them and see what happens. And if they come back to us and just say, not our problem anymore, then yeah, then we'll have to try to figure out with D7 Security if they want to coordinate with us. But yeah, it's a brave new world. But yeah, not a whole lot seems to have changed immediately. It's probably going to be one of these things where different groups are going to be working on like a different staggered schedule, and I don't really know if the end of life date really changed anything. We'll see.
We're finally in that time that was pushed off so many times. They actually didn't extend it for once. So
Yeah, it's finally happened.
no call from the governor.
Yeah, well, speaking of security releases, it's also been a busy week for us. We had a release come out just yesterday, two releases actually, Backdrop 129.3, and the previous minor version, Backdrop 128, received a 0.5 version. So those two releases came out yesterday, addressing two security issues, one in CKEditor and one in SVG uploading. So both of those issues were exclusive to Backdrop because they include there were Backdrop only features that there's no correlation to in any version of Drupal actually. So that was great though, because our objective with the security release yesterday was to make it so that we could get out these security fixes prior to the release of Backdrop 1.30. With Backdrop 1.30 coming out next Wednesday, it would have been a really bad idea to have the minor release also be a security release at the same time, because it's got bad optics that it looks like we created a release and then immediately needed to fix a bug in it. But these issues have existed in the 129 branch for a while now. So it allows also users to go ahead and get that security update out of the way before they go over to 1.30. Or these are moderately critical. They're XSS issues, both of them. So that's the most common kind of attack, and also, it's rated moderately critical. Its attack vectors are limited, and you almost always have to trick an administrator into clicking a link to exploit them. So, also if you wanted to wait till 1.30, then you got a 2-for-1 there, getting your security update and all the new features in 1.30 all together. Hello, Irina. Thank you for joining. Let's see. So, yeah. So the 1.29 release also is fantastic because we cleared out all of these bug fixes that had been on the docket here. So I'm going to share my screen and we can kind of run through them quickly. Yeah, so lots of things. So this is the 129.3 release notes. A lot of things. The htaccess file was modified. So this doesn't happen very often, but this is a really minor set of changes where literally these two options for MB string, HTTP input and HTTP output, were simply removed from the htaccess file. These options haven't actually done anything in probably 15 years. And newer versions of PHP and Apache in certain configurations have started complaining if they are still present. So it's an mostly optional change because you don't need to remove these if your site isn't having a problem. but you should remove them because they don't do anything, and your site will probably start complaining about them eventually. So very minor there, and there are some updates that need to be run as well. One of the issues here, the security issues, had to do with CKEditor. That the act of loading the editor can sometimes execute JavaScript before the editor is actually attached.
Ooh.
And I'm not sure if it was the stimulus for this, but CKEditor got 4 other fixes as well, and I grouped them all together in the release notes here. Yeah, there's a bunch of great fixes in here, including my favorite one that was a last minute thing that I was like, while we're fixing all this CKEditor stuff, let's also fix my pet peeve, which is the code block button inside of CKEditor not maintaining white space. And so this is a frustrating issue for writing documentation or doing any kind of code samples because your white space was getting removed. And this is now finally fixed. We also updated the docs and the forum, finally making it so that forum users can post code samples using the code button, and now all the formatting is maintained correctly. So nice little updates there for the users of our forum site. So yeah, a great set of fixes. I'm very excited about clearing out this backlog. I think there was 27 issues plus the 2 security ones that all got fixed in 129.3. And next week, when we make Backdrop 1.30, we'll also release Backdrop 129.4 as kind of, clearing out any last remaining items that are in the 129 branch. But 129.4 will be much smaller now that we've cleared out all of these issues in this release. So excited to see that. All right. Hi, Jen. Welcome as well. Yeah, does anybody have any questions or commentary on 129.3, the security issues, or any of the items that were released in this bug fix? No? Okay. All right. Well, then we will turn our attention to the future, which is Backdrop 1.30, which comes out next week. So we have the preview release out already. That came out a week ago. Actually, I guess on Friday last week, on January 3rd. So the Backdrop 1.30 preview release is already out there. That contains all of the new features that are going to be in 1.30. If we look at the milestone here for the 1.30 release, they're all follow-ups now at this point, improving the backup and restore text, improving or adding a setting for the simplified login pages. Sorry, improving the setting for the simplified login pages. Help text on the blocks page, custom blocks page, because we renamed block module to reusable custom blocks because that's what it actually does. Block module in Drupal, in Drupal period, handles layout functionality, but it doesn't do that in Backdrop at all. And so the helps text that had been on the module still said that it was responsible for placing blocks, but it's not. It's just providing reusable ones now. But we may have overstepped a little bit here, and just that reusable custom blocks is a mouthful compared to blocks. So the discussion here is basically saying we should probably shorten that back up a bit, I believe. Jen, you reopened this issue. Is there any
Yeah,
commentary you want to say about this?
there were 2 issues that were very similar about renaming the blocks, and this one had sort of like a text that was like everyone agreed on, and then the other one was the one that got merged. But I think that the text in this one wasn't what that got changed to, it was the text in the other one. So I think we just need to look at what was decided on in this one, compare it to what actually got in, and make a decision as to whether we actually think this text is better than that text, which I think it is. But yeah, so it just looks like there were two parallel conversations going on, and the one that got in wasn't the one that was most recent, I don't think. So
Yeah,
worth
so this
revisiting.
this is kind of the issue here is that under oh, I'm not yeah, here it is. Yeah. So on 1.x, the 1.x branch. So this used to just be called blocks, and now it's reusable custom blocks and add reusable custom blocks, list reusable custom blocks. It's a bit much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because this issue, what happened here is that in the earlier issue, I said that I didn't like that big long string. And then a couple months later, somebody came in and posted the same suggestion a second time, and I forgot my own opposition and I merged it the second time in the different issue. So yeah, that happens. And then yeah, then we found this issue and we're like, oh, we didn't like what that text was. And so that's the idea here, is that we revise this one more time. This needs a pull request though. It'd be great to see, like it's always a little bit tricky discussing string changes, especially when it's like we're going to be changing the text in some places but not others. This really needs a pull request to demonstrate exactly what changes are being proposed. All right, let's see here. So and then this is by far the most important follow-up that we have. We added supplemental CSS selectors to the basis theme in 1.30. And let me describe what this feature is. So supplemental CSS selectors are a ridiculously simple concept in that on the body tag, oh, I don't have it on here. On the body tag, if you're running basis, it adds a class for minor versions of Backdrop that contain CSS updates. So if I reinstalled the site today, it would have update -1-30, indicating the CSS updates for Backdrop 1.30. And what that allows us to do is place CSS in Basis's CSS files that only apply to the new versions and don't apply to existing sites. And this makes it so that we can change CSS without affecting or breaking anyone's existing websites. So this is what the CSS change looks like in code, that this is fixing the placement of the messages block, but only for sites that install Basis on 1.30 or higher. So, and this is the problem that it's solving when you flush all caches or do any kind of thing that sets a message. You get this awful message placement where it's like the messages inject themselves in between the hero and the three cards, and it looks pretty awful. And so this pull request fixes that issue, but we're really struggling. Thank you, everybody, for continuing to test and try different things to try to get this problem solved. But someone accurately referred to it as like playing a game of Jenga, where it's like we've got to put something on the top of something while we're taking something out and don't break anything. So we've been going back and forth about how isolated this change should be. This looks like this is currently in testing mode because there's no way that we should have a pink
No, that's a
pink
mistake, but
background.
this current PR also causes regressions. This is not a viable candidate for merge. But
Yeah,
it
we've
is
seen some
helpful for
better.
testing.
This is one that you filed.
Yeah, this is not a good one. There's another one
Yeah,
on
the
the way if
Indigo
it's not
Zella
already
one
there.
looks pretty good. Not this one either.
I don't know. That might be
Okay.
it.
This one's really, last I looked at it, is really focused Like, it has a crazy set of selectors here saying only handle this exact situation.
Yeah, that was what mine did too. It was like only do it if the messages block is the first one in the top area and the next one is the cards block. Very specific scenario.
And Jen, we had talked a little bit about like fixing the underlying issue, like that we're using negative margins on the homepage and stopping using
Well,
negative margins.
just for the cards thing, I think was what we were trying. Because when we put in cards, we put in some weird hack.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, this is what it looks like with the pull request. Much, much, much better. Yeah, and if you have the same, like, so it adds the gray background, but only if the messages is next to cards, basically. I think that's the way that works.
I
But
don't think. Anyway, I'll go look at it.
but if it's on another page like this, then yeah, so there's no gray background added in this scenario.
It's only added to LTOP on the homepage because that's the only LTOP on the Boxton layout because that's the only place where the LTOP region spans the full width of the page.
Yeah, so LTOP has the promoted cards block. Then also, yeah, so it's literally if there's both the system messages and the promoted cards block in the LTOP region. So very, very specific. It doesn't
Okay.
look like it's specific to Boxton.
No. Well, I don't think we should add the background color unless it is. But this is also very specific to basis too, so it's a little, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure, like some people have already expressed with accuracy concern that this CSS is going to be difficult to maintain in the future, especially as we add more stacks on top of it.
Hacks on hacks on hacks.
Yeah, we don't want to ever change the messages again, I don't think is the thing. Like we want to change other parts of basis probably, and CSS select the supplemental selectors will allow us to do that. But yeah, we want to get this messages one right because doing another update on top of it is going to be a heck of a headache. So that's in my opinion, the number one thing that we've got to fix before the Backdrop 1.30 release. But yeah, other than that, we're in really fantastic shape. Yeah, 30 issues closed in the Backdrop 1.30 release. Lots of great stuff. You can check out the release notes for the preview release to kind of get a good summary of everything that's in 1.30. So if we look at the total list of releases, we can find, here it is, the 1.30 preview release. Kind of recap all of the features and functionality and changes that are in 1.30. Which I think everybody loves the oh, I don't even have it on here. Loves the new login page. The login page is so great. I'm really stoked about it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's all the topics that I really wanted to cover today. I mean, we've got the security release, 777 end of life. We've got Backdrop 1.30 coming around the corner. We're in really strong position there. And yeah, that's all of the updates I had for today. So I'll open the floor if anybody has any topics or questions they'd like answers to. Irina says layouts. You'll need to elaborate a little over here.
There was a very interesting conversation while discussing cards, blocks, and layouts. And there was a very good note that when a person who comes from either Drupal or WordPress clicks on the home page and tries to make some changes, and things are not visible because homepage is using homepage layout, while all the other pages are using default layout, is very important when we're introducing it to new users, because layouts is very different. And to be honest, I only have one site where I use home page layout altogether. I don't
You
have
mean
a
the core one?
yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm not using it because I don't really need it, because I have an option to do visibility settings within default layout, and I set my home page in the system settings. And the reason why I'm bringing it up, because it's not like, oh, this is the solution, but this is a very big this is a very big blocker for new users of Backdrop.
Is it not documented on the card? Isn't there like something that says your homepage is special?
Jen, nobody reads
No?
anything these days. I don't read anything. It's not until I have a major problem, like I don't understand. So
Yeah.
between the moment when I do something that is kind of intuitive and the moment when like, oh, this thing is not broken, if this moment is too long, then people like don't get to read the manual and they just say, okay, this is not working for me. And so I'm bringing up more of a philosophical concept. So my gut feeling would be it would be much easier for people if there would be one out of the box, there will be one default layout that has 3 cards block with visibility saying this is only on the front page. And thus
That doesn't show off any of the layouts. I mean, we've been over this a lot, like when layouts went in.
Yeah.
A custom homepage is like the #1 use case for this, and all of websites and all of Drupal 7 in all like Backdrop is very important that your homepage be different. You want to have an example in core of a different layout template in use. You can't do that if you only have one layout. I just think there's no way we can get rid of a core. Like this was a huge deal when we put it in. It can't be the same. People
Right.
people aren't going to learn about it if it's not already in there. So I think what we need to do is maybe do a better job on the back end of if they aren't going to read the information we put on the front end on the homepage,
maybe
doing
Maybe
something
there
better
has
in
to
the
be-
UI that indicates which layout you're on or something. But there's no way we're going to remove the homepage layout. It's just too critical.
Yeah, I'm not saying you have to remove it. What I'm saying is my observation is the minute between I say, okay, I want this block on the homepage. Because
Yeah.
I'm kind of familiar, like, oh, there's widgets in WordPress and there's, blocks. I'm doing something that seems very intuitive. And then it doesn't happen. And I say, okay, this is my homepage, right? I put it in system settings. And then I look at it and it looks differently because
So what we need is a warning in system settings if you don't use the homepage layout, right? Or that we automatically disable a layout with the same path, some feedback so that you aren't thinking you're going to get, that makes sense.
I think, and I'm not bringing this as like, oh, because there's no good solution for that. I'm like, let's brainstorm. My observation is that it's very easy to lose people within this half an hour when they're like this system doesn't work. I did first install, and on the very basic thing, I need to
don't think anyone's going to find that system settings page in the first half hour. That's like you'd need a year of Backdrop experience to find that at least. Like
No,
that's not
Unless you're coming from Drupal.
Yeah.
or if
that's
you're
true.
coming from WordPress, because WordPress also have very clearly defined home setting, right? If I'm working on the WordPress site, I install WordPress site, and the first thing I decide is my front page list of posts or is it a static page? And that's the first thing I do. And the same thing I do for any CMS, like, okay, what is my front page? And then if my front page, and then I click on the log, and like, this is where like I'm getting lost. So I'm not saying there's a solution for this problem. I'm just observing the challenge, and we can put it out there and maybe someday it will.
Yeah, I think that another thing that people have a hard time with is when they're editing a layout, not knowing which layout they're editing. Like if you use, especially if you use that like edit this page thing, and if you're on like one layout, you think you're placing a block on your homepage, but it's not the homepage layout. Then you go to the homepage and it's not there. That's really confusing. So the back end, I think definitely needs some improvement. I think we could definitely put something on that system settings form.
So yeah,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah, I'm
this
gonna
is
pull it
Your
up here.
block, Nate.
not really urgent. So I'm kind of
Big system site info, that one, yeah. It's funny because it's definitely like an issue that I'm supportive of, and I'm worried because any small change seems to maybe just make it worse. Like as we've talked about, kind of interface changes. If if you're gonna do it, it's weird to only solve like some of them without solving like the others that are kind of in the same class, and so it's hard to find a good balance between doing enough to matter versus overcommitting to things they're not going to work. Um, uh, are you heading to the forum, Nate? Is that
Yeah, I am heading to the forum. I wanted to point out that, yeah, as far as like, have documenting our way out of this, Jen's
yeah
right that there's like learn
It's
more
right
about the
there.
homepage, and then it links over
Yeah.
to this very verbose
yeah
description of how the homepage works in Backdrop. At least it demonstrates that uh, a lack of documentation is not our problem here. Like
No.
we've already run down that route, and
yeah
Irina is
Yeah.
saying that didn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
wasn't even expecting people to click on that link, like just to read this sentence. But if people aren't even going to read the homepage layout block on the home card on the homepage, then it's not. Um,
yeah, and so the form that Irina
like
was
these
talking
cards
about,
only appear on this layout. Like, I don't know. It's
yeah.
maybe
So,
that text might use some improvement too, but
yeah, we talked about,
uh,
I think it was like week before last, we were talking about this page.
yeah
This page is awful.
yes.
But this is where the home page gets set, and you do it by just typing in this URL.
yeah
Um, and out of the box, it's /home, and that out of the box /home correlates to the layout
Slash home
that is
layout.
also at /home.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a pretty reasonable default. But the way in
you're
which,
never going to guess how this little interface works. I mean because the problem is here that it looks like it's promising to set your homepage, but then there are many times when you can set it there and it doesn't change what you're expecting it to change. So
yeah, the
and
correlation between this and this is like it's non-existent. Like you
Yeah.
just have to know that it's
Yeah.
tied by its path.
yeah
Yeah, but I mean, same as anything else there, right? Like even if you're using a view or a node, there's no correlation between this and those things either. But we
yeah
do have this like autocomplete, right? So it seems like we could, like we know, well, Backdrop knows this is a page, this is a layout, right? It's right there. So it seems like we could even put a description on that field that's like your site is currently using the view X for your homepage or something. Like there's a way we can improve this layout. Like we have the information, even though the user doesn't have any of it looking at this form.
Yeah, I mean that was what I was alluding to because like solving like the immediate problem, not sustainably, but you could put a link to documentation right here that says path to use for the homepage. Maybe if this doesn't work, click here and find out what happened. But you wouldn't want to put that just in that spot without putting it in like 20 other places in the interface too, and then that's the
No,
kind
no,
of
no, I'm not talking about documentation. I'm talking about explaining how this specific site
is
works
actually
so that when
configured.
you change it, it would change here too. So like why? Because right now home is a layout, but you don't know that looking at this. But if we had some text underneath that's like this page is using the layout home for to display at the whatever. And then if you changed it to like node, it would be like, this page is using the view node. And like that could link to the configuration for the layout, the configuration for the view, the edit form for the node, whatever you put in there, we have that information and we could tie those things together for anyone looking at this interface so they could get to the thing that their homepage is using. And that I think would be helpful.
That's a
Yeah.
compelling vision. Nate, could you click on content right there? Because I just want to ask like is this possible question? You can say no or maybe.
What
Um,
the
oh,
content menu
the
item?
menu, yeah. Just go to the content list. Could we on the content list uh include a link to the layout that that content item uses, or is that not practical? Like as a column?
It would take some work, but we could figure that out as a views
But
handler.
also,
Yeah.
for 99% of the cases, it's just going to say default layout
layout,
or
yeah.
node layout. Like it's the same for all
Oh,
nodes
yeah.
or all nodes of the same type or all, you know. So I'm not sure that's super helpful. I do think, this could be a great place for a contrib module. I'm thinking about building for equivalent of what was it, Panelizer in Drupal 7. On any given node, there could be like a view edit layout option at the top. And I think that I'm going to have to build that for one of my admins. So something in contrib I think could add these like additions so that if your site did use a unique layout for each node, you could have that information in this form.
This link exists already. If you go on the node, you can get to layout from the page.
If you're
Yeah.
viewing it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so
Maybe I
the-
mean one of the things that
Yeah.
like as Irina mentioned before, like the thing that happens on the homepage is like super important to everybody. Maybe instead of having it just be kind of hidden in that one middle of the page in like an obscure menu, it could be like a more prominent thing, like, you know, just a thing like, here's your homepage, and like all the things that go into that, just because it's such an important case.
Like it's its own menu item.
On appearances, maybe like maybe somewhere under appearances, it could be like, oh, by the way, here's your homepage, and untangle all those possibilities. Like here's the layout, here's the node, here's the
Yeah,
things.
this is a good opportunity for the like we put the thing you're looking for everywhere you expect to find it scenario. So I think as a developer, we think of appearance as only having to do with themes, but as an end user, you think of appearance as like everything that controls how my site looks.
Yeah.
And so it might be helpful to have that homepage setting in more than one place.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
number of things here. It's funny, like this page, the site information page, it does contain some things that are pretty critical for new sites. Like the site name and the email address are set by the installer. But yeah, and slogan isn't terribly important. But I would expect people will come in here to like set their site logo as a pretty high priority, like first site task. So I
A
could
lot of
also,
things.
I could see them ending up like here on the homepage option quicker than you might expect. Because it's on the same page as these rather important other basic settings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you think it's I also am not sure it's clear what that means. Like, yeah, I think this whole page maybe needs a
Yeah,
like path
yeah,
view
and
for the homepage sounds like what do you want your URL to look like? It doesn't sound at all like you're changing what's going to be on that page if you change the path.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I think this needs a fresh set of eyeballs for sure.
yeah, one idea that had been floated, I think already, it was like instead of like asking for the path, if you say like what thing should be the home page, right? And so you say like I want a layout to be the home page, and then you select the layout that is
Yeah.
the home page instead of typing in a path. And one of the options should possibly be, probably for backwards compatibility, be like choose an arbitrary
Define
path.
custom path.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you type in
I
that
love
other
it.
path.
Love it.
Because yeah, you're right. This it's also just very strange that in Backdrop that the homepage it lives at two places, right?
Oh.
Actually, I'm not even sure if
Well,
this
it
still works in
doesn't.
Backdrop.
It doesn't. This is
Yeah, it
just an
does.
arbitrary. Oh, wait, you mean has two paths?
Yes, has two paths.
Ah,
Yep.
well, I mean, it doesn't really
I mean, it does really.
like what that
But,
setting,
but I
what
like
that
that
setting is
the canonical
asking,
is correct.
what that setting is asking is where do you want us to redirect to when somebody types in nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
but
like,
it's
what
not
do
a
you want us
redirect.
to
Yeah. What do you want us to
rewrite?
route to?
Or
Which is
what do you want us to rewrite? Like if somebody puts in this path, what do you want us to rewrite as nothing, right? Like, so this is not actually asking, what do you want us to use as your homepage? It's like a very different
I think
internal process than what we're asking the user.
I think the challenge here is disconnect between perceptions that I'm setting homepage in one place and URL home and like different layout. So if I never spent enough time researching this, I just fix things and make it work my way without trying to figure out what else can be done. And so my only point here was that because there was a little bit of time to talk about it today, I thought that I'll bring this up. Again, this is not an urgent issue. There are lots of things that are kind of much more urgent. But that is something good for, backdrop live discussion or, general input, and maybe eventually, maybe somebody will come up with a contrib module saying, oh, this is how you connect these two settings. And after some experimenting, this can move forward. But this is not something like, oh, we need to solve it now. So
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's
It's
not like
good to talk
it's not
about.
an atomic bug. I brought this up a few weeks ago when we were talking about like, coming up on the 10th anniversary, coming up on this thing. I was like, what big issues, Backdrop 2.0 type issues. And one of them was kind of, rejiggering the admin interface to at some point, get rid of 20 years of historical cruft of like not carefully thought out decisions and bring it together from a user interface perspective. Like on our standard menu things that we inherited from Drupal. You,
Mhm.
you have things, under the structure menu, like the structure, appearance, functionality stuff just drives me batty because that's not what it is, right? Like structure sounds like the information architecture. So it makes sense to include, content types and taxonomies, but not views and, not layouts. Those are appearance. That should go, themes shouldn't be the top level thing in appearance. Like all the UI stuff
Hmm.
should live there. And I mean, it should include, layouts, views, and themes. And themes is like the least important of those things in terms of your appearance, right? So like if we had that, if we had like, the appearance menu actually handling the UI, then that's a logical place to have the homepage, you know, and possibly other landing page. I mean, the homepage is a landing page, the most important landing page typically, but it's not. The landing pages are important, and that's
Interesting.
a UI
Yeah,
thing.
I've always wondered about the structure menu. I feel like it was better in Drupal 6, Drupal 7.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, we also had this problem like in earlier versions of Drupal where like everything just ended up in the same menu because we don't really know how to distinguish between things. But yeah, like for me, structure is like information architecture stuff. So like views does seem like it fits there because you are leveraging the relationships between data in order to build that. And the views itself is not an appearance item because you have to style it on top of the view. Like this is what's underneath, not necessarily but I see your point of view that like you are deciding whether it should be like a list or a table or a teaser, which is sort of relevant.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. A structure is sort of like the place where you put stuff you build. Like if you think of it as like a verb rather than
I'll
a
give
noun.
struct-
I structure stuff
if
in here.
if you had an RSS feed for the site, the stuff that's in structure should show up in that feed of like or a data export thing, as opposed to what it looks like on any given platform. All right, like the things that you define in the structure menu should matter for like audio for interfaces, but you know what I mean? No?
No, but I don't know. Naming things is hard. Um, yeah, I feel like part of the problem might be like the word appearance is the wrong word for that section. Or to your point, if the section only has one item in it and it's the themes page, maybe we don't need a skins section. We do need it to be appearance and we move other stuff over there. But yeah, I also think like if we do start this kind of like major reorg, we need to really clearly document to people what should go in each section because Contrib also adds stuff into all these menus and they're like trying to figure out where various things go. And that's also really hard as a Contrib developer. You're like, am I appearance? Am I structure? Am I configuration? Should I go like buried underneath this media setting or should I be like a top level list of files? Like, I don't know. Yeah, there's just, it is a little arbitrary right now
Well,
for sure.
I think that's where it came from. But I mean, because of Drupals and our sort of modular thing, someone who builds a module chooses its menu and chooses its categorization
Yep.
at a time when they don't know what it's going to be. So I mean, I feel like those things should be suggestions or defaults, but they should be easy for somebody down the line to make better decisions on.
Well, I mean, at any given site, you could like move views over to appearance if you wanted it there, but that's a lot of work for you to do
A
that
lot of
every
work.
time, right? And then the next person who comes along to the site isn't going to be able to find anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, that's a huge concern about, changing the
moving
structures.
anything.
Yeah, because it's not even just our, thousands of backdrop sites that are out there. It's the hundreds of thousands of Drupal users out there that, have this familiarity.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
doing a
It,
major restructuring,
It's
would be
hard.
very disruptive.
Ideally, it would be like a toggle. It could be like Drupal compatible layout if that's what you know. But if you know if you don't know it, then because there's just so many it's QWERTY, right? Like it's things that people gotten used to over years and years and years, but baffling. Whenever I explain it to new users, they're like, "Wait, really? That's there?"
Well, anyway, the point at hand is the homepage in particular, which
Yeah,
I think the homepage setting
it's
is
weird.
it's weird. And like even if we improve the UI for it, I think it's also a very valid candidate to move it out from under this page. Like maybe instead of fixing site information, we just pull the stuff out of it that isn't site information. Like what your homepage is isn't the same thing as what's your logo and what's your site name,
Yeah,
That's not it's not, and also it's impossible to find. Like a homepage setting under site information makes no sense.
yeah,
Um and would make a lot of sense if the homepage, as such an important thing, just had its own settings page.
yep,
So that would be like if we improve the UI for it, we can also give it its own page, and then you've got the space for it. And that
yeah,
would be a nice incremental improvement to our situation.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we
I'm
could
not quite sure where
also,
that page would live or what would be on it, but I
yeah,
don't think
would
that
it
it should
go
be
under
here.
appearance?
Yeah.
Which is weird because we pulled like logo, uh, site name slogan out of theme settings and moved them to system settings because that made more sense by how your site's built. It's not actually related to your theme, but it is related to appearance. So maybe we move site information and homepage under appearance. No?
Yes.
And there's already an
Uh,
issue to to move those error message settings to the error messages page, which is ridiculous that it's not there already.
yeah.
But yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's precedent for it, right? Like the site information page has information about the logo, and that's also in the appearance page.
It's not
Wait,
anymore.
it's not.
Oh, sorry, I'm out of
Yeah,
date.
it was in Drupal that you could have a different logo per theme, and that's
Yeah.
not the case anymore. Now there's just one logo for your site. Because Backdrop, we pretty heavily de-emphasized the concept of having multiple themes at the same time, because that's just not something that is a majority use case, that you have multiple themes installed and that the themes would have different logos is outrageous.
And
Yeah.
that users can select which theme they want to use. That's also ridiculous.
Yeah, remember
Other
that
than light
day?
versus dark, I guess that's sort of valid these days.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I mean, skins are like that all the time. Like end users use different skins if that's what's going
Yeah.
on.
yeah, but that's different themes is outrageous. It's too high a capability to do toggles. Yeah, there was Drupal. Yeah, we keep talking about ancient Drupal versions. Drupal 5, I think it was, like, had on the user profile form when you edited it, if you had multiple themes, you could choose which theme you wanted, and that was a non-disableable setting on everybody's user profile. Yeah. Hi, Greg.
Hello, everybody.
Well, we're running over time here. I think that yeah, we got spinning a yarn about homepage settings.
Oh, man.
Thanks to Irina's helpful but disruptive comment as usual. So let's go ahead and wrap up for today. Thank you everybody for joining and chatting with us. Yeah, we've got by this meeting next week, Backdrop 1.30 will be out the door. So looking forward to that. Happy 1.30 release. And we'll say it's some more coming up, but yeah, happy birthday Backdrop, right? January 15th is our 10-year birthday, 10-year anniversary of the 1.0 release. So yeah, thank you everybody, and yeah, celebrate